Ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you?
It's time to flip a coin and find out.
Well, we need to know what we're calling for here.
We're calling it to see who's got the best sports knowledge here on the Coin Flip with Martin Kelly
and Jacob Zimmerman.
Flip it again. Another week, another chance to talk some NFL football. Jacob Zimmerman, Martin Kelly here on the Coin Flip podcast. We kind of did a weird thing in the middle of the week. We said, oh, what the hey, there is the Thanksgiving Day games. There's even the first ever Black Friday game. Why don't we roll out some predictions ahead of time? So we're kind of halfway through week 12, still with a winner to be decided here in the week. We've had 4 games so far. The Lions drop to the Packers 29-22. The Cowboys get the dub in blowout fashion over the Commies. The 49ers handle business on the road in Seattle, and the Dolphins take care of business at the Jets. Martin, we won't spend a ton of time, but give me your reaction to the holiday slate.
The holiday slate, I was sleeping all day because I can't think of a more... I mean, honestly, yes, the Packers game and Southern Canada and Lions game got a little bit closer, but that should have been like 45-6 at halftime. That's how bad Jared Goff was playing. I slept through the Cowboys game. I watched the Seattle game for like 5 minutes up until they went up by 17. And I mean, the only interesting play from yesterday's game with the Jets and Dolphins was the 99-yard interception return, which was just completely exactly what the Jets are, is that they think that they can get there, and it doesn't happen. So a little bit of more sleeping than I thought. I watched other games. I was interacting with some other college football games other than watching a little bit more NFL, but nonetheless, a bit of a snooze fest games, Jacob.
I would agree as well. I think the NFL should sort of adapt the mentality that the NBA has for their Christmas Day games, where they just say, all right, we're going to put the 10 biggest brands all on TV, 10 of the best teams, 10 of the best superstars. We're guaranteed to see some fireworks on Christmas Day NBA games. I would love to see the NFL drop the Chiefs, drop the Eagles on Thanksgiving. But nevertheless, Martin, we have some of those great teams. We got a great slate of 12 matchups coming up on Sunday tomorrow. We were recording this on Saturday. But before we dive into our predictions, I wanted to get this out there. Martin, our last 2 videos have done pretty darn solid when it comes down to the views. But we need you to drop a like on this video, hit the subscribe button, and comment down below what your lock of the week is. Try to help us boost the algorithm just a little bit more. Martin, Steelers and Bengals heading up to the AFC North. No more Joe Burrow. Kenny Pickett's been struggling, but Pittsburgh is favored by just 2.5. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, this is going to be to overall just the entire week, Jacob. This weekend, I can't think of a closer week with all these games. This is probably the most this is probably, to take our title, this is probably the most coin flip week we have probably done in years since we've been picking games. I don't remember a slate of games this close, besides the Kansas City game. But to get to that later down the road, I'm going to take the Steelers in this one, only because Browning's not going to be able to save the Cincinnati Bengals season, as much as they have all that talent offensively, and as much as they might be a little bit better of a team overall. The Steelers firing Matt Canada gives them a chance to actually open up this offense. Maybe they run Warren a little bit more than they run Najee Harris. Maybe they get Najee Harris more involved in the offense. Maybe finally they'll throw the ball to Deontay Johnson, George Pickens. I just feel like the Steelers finally have had all the shackles let off of them. Mike Tomlin's got control again. Throw the football. The Steelers will win this. They'll win it ugly, but this will be a win over the Bengals because Browning is not better than Pickett.
Yeah, I think the value is really going to show from Joe Burrow. Even an injured Joe Burrow is going to be better than Jake Browning out there at quarterback. Martin, I was kind of scrolling through some of our past weeks, given that you mentioned what I also kind of noticed before we started this podcast, how aside from the holiday games, which pretty much were all, high favorites. When you look at the Sunday, 12 matchups, there's only one game where a team is favored. And this is late in the week compared to, our regular, time of a Wednesday, Thursday where we do this. Martin, there's only one team that's favored by more than 3.5. That's insane. I don't think I've seen that all throughout the entire season so far in 2023, 2024. And it's Kansas City at Las Vegas. That's the 10-point favorite. Normally you see, at least 2 or 3, touchdown favorites, about 6.5 or 7 or so. There's none of that. There's a ton of close contests. Not really, I don't know if I would go as far to say, a 3.5 underdog is really a true underdog, but yes, a coin flip matchup indeed. Given that I took a ton of the time on that clock, Martin, I'm going to roll with the Steelers as well. I think Kenny Pickett will do enough. I think Jalen Warren, who I actually discovered recently I played against in high school, he went to East High School in Utah. Martin, the Steelers have hope still this season, and that's really what this prediction comes down to. Moving on to the Jags and the Texans. Can CJ Stroud stick it to their division rival?
I want to say yes, but I'm going to take the Jags in this one. The Texans have been a really good home team this year, only losing, I think, 2 home games so far this season. But most of the time when the Texans are at home, they are a really, really good team. But the Jags are coming off after the still getting blown out by the Niners. I still think they're mad. I still think they're frustrated. They took some of that out against Tennessee last week, and I think they'll do it again this week. Going up against back-to-back rookie quarterbacks who have been on the rise. CJ's been on more of a rise than Will Levis, but I still think Houston, even with home field advantage, will struggle. Jacksonville just needs to put together a solid plan here, and I think they could win easily. Give me Jacksonville.
Yeah, Martin, kind of at the very beginning of the season, some people were doubting the Jags after their late run last year because they lost to the Texans at home by 20 points. Now, that loss has since aged like fine wine, given that the Texans are a legit playoff contender. So the Jags are probably a better team than we initially thought. They also had that Chiefs loss, a low-scoring one in there, where we didn't quite realize how good the Chiefs' defense was. So the Jags are definitely a legit team. I think they're going to taste that revenge this Sunday. They'll get the dub. They're favored on the road. So, Vegas is perhaps predicting, the road team to win this one, but it's a divisional matchup. You're never quite sure how this one's going to go down. Yeah, I think that loss from the 49ers still stings a little bit, Martin, but they've handled the rest of their schedule with ease, so I think they're going to get it done in a revenge game in Houston, a classic divisional split there in the AFC South. So me and Martino hitting Jags not once but twice onto the Buccaneers, Baker's Bucks, and a Richardson-less Colts team.
Yeah, so even more with the Colts, obviously with them cutting Darius Leonard, their all-pro linebacker for a couple years who led the team in tackles, gets cut around the Thanksgiving holiday. It's a sad time to get cut like that, but nonetheless, he still showed out a lot of love, giving out turkeys and helping out families. So good on him being a man like that. Jacob, you looked at this matchup. This is the worst road team and the worst home team in the NFL. The Colts only have one home win this year. They've lost their last 5 home games. The Bucks have only had 1 road win. They've lost their 5 road games as well. The Bucks are coming on a 5. I think they've lost 5 of 6, and the Colts are coming off a bye week. The Buccaneers are missing a third of their defense, including 2 of their safeties and a defensive end. As much as Jonathan Taylor hasn't really shown all the poise that he is as an All-Pro running back, I will take the Colts in this one. If the Bucks don't have a third of their defense and their rushing attack is one of the worst in the NFL, I don't see them getting off to a great start in this game. They can put up points. They did that against San Fran last week, but with no true running game and no way to stop an offense, this looks like a Colts win. So maybe the Colts can get their second home win of the season.
Martin, that's a great stat. Shout out to Martin Kelly for doing that research. Worst home team, worst away team. This is a tough one, Martin. I think I'm actually going to go with the Buccaneers here. I'm going to roll with a slight underdog. I think the roller coaster that's been the Buccaneers season, especially offensively, I think it still has a couple high moments left. Now, I think both of these teams will end up missing a wild card spot, especially the Colts in the AFC. I think this is one of those classic Colts games, Martin, where the Colts kind of find themselves the middle of the pack, the middle of the season, and they kind of find a way to let you down. I think that's going to happen. Jonathan Taylor, I've kind of made jokes with our buddy James, who's a Colts fan, that he's the highest paid backup in the entire league. Given that Zach Moss has had a great season filling in for him, and even after he's came back, Gardner Minshew, he's a fun guy. So is Baker. We might see some fantastic throws in this game. We might see some absolutely terrible, 10-yard out pick sixes the other way. Given that I don't really know how this game could go, I think the Buccaneers have had a higher ceiling. They've had higher points in their roller coaster this year than the Colts have maybe even had. That Bucs offense looked really good in that loss to the Texans. You win that game normally 9 times out of 10 if your defense doesn't crap the bed, but I'm going to actually roll with Baker and the Bucs here. So moving on to the Saints and the Falcons, Martin. I think it was either the Saints or the Falcons social media team that said that this was one of the best rivalries, the best rivalry in all the NFL. I couldn't disagree more, but Saints and Falcons, who you got?
I can't completely, utterly disagree with that more. Real quick on that for just 30 seconds. One, the Niners, Rams. That one's a better rivalry. Niners, Seahawks is a better rivalry. Dolphins and Patriots is a better rivalry. Bills and Dolphins is a better rivalry. Packers and Bears is a better rivalry. Packers and Vikings is a better rivalry. I can go on and on and on about that one. The battle of ordinary quarterbacks. The Saints are missing Michael Thomas coming into this game. They're also missing their star left tackle, Ryan Zick. Carr's coming off the concussion injury. They were on a bye week. The Falcons, I think, are on a bye week as well. Taylor Heineke, their last game they lost at home versus Joshua Dobbs and the Vikings after they had to come back in that game. I still think Arthur Smith doesn't know how to utilize his offense. So for that, I'll take the mediocre Saints in this game only because it just feels like the Saints have a little bit more of a solidified defense and they can just do just a little bit more on offense than the Falcons can. Give me Chris Olave and Derek Carr over Taylor Heineke and Chris London. Thanks. Drake London. I apologize.
So Martin, you're rolling with the
Saints.
Falcons.
Saints.
So Martin's rolling with Saints. He's rolling with good old Louisiana. Martin, this is the game before the game to decide the NFC South, I think, because this is the first matchup between these two teams. New Orleans is 5-5, Atlanta's 4-6, and then they play each other as the final game of the regular season. So, Martin, I think this matchup will determine the winner of the division. Now, if it's this game, if it's the last game of the season, it's going to be big. If Atlanta wants to have any chance to push forward, this is their opportunity. But Martin, there's a reason I believe one of my preseason predictions in our over-unders for the NFL, I had the Falcons under. I think they were up at 8.5. I think Vegas may have overshot them just a little bit, considering that Desmond Ridder is your quarterback. And, while we might see Heineke out there, the Falcons just have not figured out how to take advantage of these weapons. I mean, Drake London was a great college receiver. Bijan Robinson, we know how good this guy is. The Kyle Pitts memes will go on throughout the rest of history as far as I'm concerned. You're never confident when you're picking Derek Carr in 2023. But Martin, we are both going with New Orleans to beat Atlanta. The Patriots are favored at the Giants by 3.5. This is probably the worst matchup of the week.
Yeah, it is the worst matchup of the week, and I won't even waste 30 seconds of this one. Give me the G-Men. Tommy DeVito will get a home win. He will get it over the New England Patriots. The Patriots only scored 6 points and took a 20. I think it's got to be at least a 9 or 10 hour flight to only go 6 points in Germany. So definitely Bill Belichick wasn't happy in Europe, and he won't be happy in New York either. The Giants will win this one. The Patriots are just severely bad.
Martin, this could be the nail in the coffin for Bill Belichick. Now, I have the mentality that, if there's ever been a coach in the NFL who has deserved to, keep his job and go through a couple bad seasons after, I don't know, Martin, being the greatest dynasty in the history of the sport, I think Belichick, should have a little bit more respect than he's getting right now. I know he's a terrible GM, and I know, he has an attitude, and I know, he runs it like a military ship, but I cannot pick against the Patriots in this game, Martin. I cannot pick Tommy DeVito against Bill Belichick, and that's all this one comes down to. I think DeVito's going to go for at least 2 picks. This is going to be a classic, under 30 total kind of game, maybe a 17-14. I could see it, but look for maybe a defensive score here from New England, and I don't think there's enough confidence in this Giants team. Both of these teams basically are just playing for pride at this point, and I like to think that New England defense has just a little bit more pride than the Giants do. So, Martin, you are rolling with the G-men in this one. I am rolling with the Pats, but on to my squad, the Carolina Panthers, worst record in the league. At the Titans, though, only a 3.5-point dog.
Yeah, I wanna say this also just because I think it's the truth, Jacob. Though the Panthers have the worst record in the NFL, I think the worst team in the NFL is not even the Cardinals, it's not even the Bears. I just think it's the Patriots. I think that's the worst team in the NFL just because of the lack of just production you've gotten out of the Patriots. That's just me. The record does not show the Panthers to be that bad. They're just not that good to me, and I know that's just kind of flipping it backwards. But to this game, I'm gonna pick the Titans. But this also feels like a trap game to me, Jacob. I'm taking the Titans. I'm rocking with Tennessee versus the Panthers. But if the Panthers come out and play solid and don't look like fools like they did before, I think they can pull off an upset for morality, Jacob. I'm still rocking with Titans, but I mean the Panthers didn't flinch when they played another rookie quarterback, and that was C.J. Stroud, and they pulled off a win in that game. And I don't think they'll flinch in this one. If they find a way to stop Derrick Henry and contain him, and Will Levis will be on his own, I don't think he'll have enough to get the win. But Titans are just the better team, and that's why I'm picking them.
Yeah, I think I'm going to roll with the Titans as well, although this would be the game to pick the Panthers. The Panthers' defense, I'm worried, is going to get lit up by Will Levis. Will Levis has had some nice flashes. While they've lost their last 3 and haven't scored over 16, the Panthers' defense has been hobbled all season long. It probably will not get healthy by the end of the year. There's no point, really. Uh, Bryce Young will probably have a solid day, but I think Will Levis will outduel him. I think, this is a great opportunity for Derrick Henry to say, "Hey, I've been an elite running back. I might have, fallen off a little bit this last year, but I can have a bounce back game. There's a reason that, I can still be a stud, one of the best running backs in the NFL." Also, another guy like Hopkins, if he's going to get traded this offseason, Hopkins needs to have premier games against teams like the Panthers secondary to continue to get these massive contracts, to continue to be an asset in the NFL. So I'm going to roll with the Titans here based off of their skill weapons, and I think Will Levis has a better shot against Frank Reich's defense than Bryce Young does against Mike Vrabel's defense 100%. So on to the Los Angeles Rams and the Arizona Cardinals, Martin. Does Kyler Murray get it done?
I was thinking about that all week as we get the buzzer there for today. I was thinking about that. And, Jacob, if we would have talked about this game in the offseason like we did about the Rams, and the Cardinals, we would have picked this game to be the laughing stock of the week more than the Giants and the Patriots game that we think that's the laughing stock of the game, because there's no way we would have thought that a Joshua Dobbs and Matt Stafford would have put on a great show, and we know that they didn't put on a great show because the last time these two teams met, Matt Stafford destroyed the Arizona Cardinals and Joshua Dobbs, and because of that, I still am going to take the Rams in this one. You know, the Rams are getting back Kyren Williams coming off the injury list. They have another solid week of production. Though the Cardinals are a great up and coming story, I just don't feel that the Cardinals' offensive line will contain the Rams. I do think Aaron Donald will get back there and create havoc. This will be a fun game if it gets a little high flying of determining whose offense will score last. But I'm taking the Rams in this game. The Rams are the better team.
Yeah, the Rams are the better team, but they're only a slight favorite on the road, and that's kind of a little worrisome. I'm trying to check the injury report here. So, yes, it does look like Matthew Stafford. He's not even on the injury report. I'm assuming he's, been full participant in practice. Cooper Kupp, he's been banged up. While I'm not seeing him currently on this list, Martin, I think he should be added. I'm not sure if he's good to go. Big day for Puka Nacua coming on up, the Orem representative out there on the big stage on Sunday. Martin, I think, oh man, the Rams just don't have a lot to play for right now. I think their playoff hopes are done. They're in kind of an awkward position where they have a couple of superstars in their team, a couple of massive contracts, and the rest of the roster is kind of a big question mark. They're really going to have to hit it in the draft if they want to bounce back and keep this core. But obviously, as for this specific game, Martin, I think, Kyler Murray has a lot to prove for the Cardinals. Uh, sometimes when I see these spreads that are a lot lower than I expect, it gives me cause to pause, as Stephen A. Smith would say. Martin, I'm going to roll with the Cardinals here on a small upset week. So you're rolling with LA, I'm rolling with a Z. But Martin, on to the Browns and the Broncos. Another team, another matchup with two quarterbacks who have not been stellar, but Russell Wilson's solid season is growing.
Yeah, his solid season is growing. And if you look back at this winning streak for the Broncos, Jacob, let's go back a little bit. They're on a 4-game win streak since their loss to the Chiefs on the 12th. That was their last loss. Since then, they beat the Packers 19-17. They got revenge against the Chiefs 24-9. They beat the Bills 24-22. And they beat they beat the Vikings 21-20. And I said this earlier about the season when it came to the Jets, that there was a stretch of they were winning games by luck. And the Broncos have been proving that on this 4-game winning streak, that if you can win by luck, you'll be able to get a win. And that's no different for the Cleveland Browns. They got the lucky win over the Niners. They got the lucky win over the Baltimore Ravens with the comeback. They got the lucky win over the Steelers because of a terrible offense by Matt Canada. They got the lucky win over the Colts because of turnovers by Indy. So the Browns have also lived on that teeter-totter side as well. I'm taking the Broncos on this 4-game winning streak. They're at home. 3 of their 4 wins on this season, on this 4-game win streak, have come at home, and they've played solid there. And I think they'll do it again against the Browns. At the end of the day, Russell Wilson, I don't think will make the same mistakes as DTR will, even though the Browns have brought in also Joe Flacco. We might see Joe Flacco in this game. We might see PJ Walker in this game. So out of those 3 ordinary quarterbacks, I won't take any of them over Russell Wilson. Give me the Broncos on this 4-game winning streak.
It's going to be really hard to pick against the Broncos here, Martin, but I'm going to do it. Russell Wilson has been very underrated this year, especially the last 5 weeks. But Martin, when I actually look at some of these final scores here from the Broncos, a 2-point win against Green Bay 4 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, a 2-point win at Buffalo. And then last week, a 1-point win against Minnesota. Martin, in the NFL, everybody knows it. You can only squeak out these close wins before they start catching up to you and they start going the other way into L's. In a close game, Martin, I've seen the Browns be in close games all season long, and they've found a way to thrive with their defense late in ball games. I mean, the Browns, probably with the Ravens, are 1-2 in the NFL when it comes to defense. I think Myles Garrett needs to get some more serious MVP recognition, but as of right now, I think he probably has the DPOY in locks. Looking at some of the final scores here from the Browns as of recently, they've had some close ones here and there as well. They had the close loss against Seattle a couple weeks back. That win against Indianapolis. But Martin, it may be DTR, but this pick is going to come down to Myles Garrett impacting this ball game in some way. I think Russell Wilson has his worst game in the last couple of weeks. On to the Chiefs and Raiders. Can the Raiders pull off a big upset?
I don't think so. Though the Chiefs are down, and morally they are down. Losing the way they did to the Eagles, losing the way they did to the Broncos, they have been sucker punched in the mouth, and the invincibility of Patrick Mahomes is starting to peel away. But that's due to the fact that Kansas City just hasn't put the same reload of weapons in front of him that they've done in recent years. Marquez Valdez-Scantling probably just booked his ticket out of the NFL with the fact that he just keeps dropping passes day in and day out. It's starting to get really bad with him. I like the kid, but he just isn't trustworthy on those deep routes. The Raiders are a fun story. They had a great game against the Dolphins. Yes, the 2 interceptions, but they played mightily against them with the defense and found ways to contain Tua. I think they'll find some ways to do it again, but I still pick the Chiefs because they're the better team, and I don't think Patrick Mahomes will be rattled again. I think Andy Reid's come up with a better plan. Maybe they find some ways to actually get an efficient offense. I still will pick the Chiefs.
So while Martin was responding, I recorrected the spread. I did that once earlier in the pod. Some of the spreads have been changing here on the Saturday afternoon. Martin, everybody is buying the Raiders stock in Vegas. And I'm not just talking about the front office. I'm talking about the bettors. From a 10 now to a 9-point favorite is Kansas City. Wow. Martin, but no way imaginable can the Chiefs lose 2 in a row, especially to a divisional opponent with poor quarterback play. The Chiefs' defense is legit. They're coming off a loss. And while it makes sense to take the points here for the Raiders, I would almost go the other way and say, hey, the Chiefs did have that loss to Philadelphia. They had that loss to Denver. But Russell Wilson was playing well. Jalen Hurts is an MVP candidate. Martin, Aiden O'Connell is nowhere near the level of those guys, right? Jimmy Garoppolo could, come out of nowhere. It's not going to make a difference. The Raiders have one of the worst quarterback play in all the NFL. The Chiefs' defense is one of the best defense in the conference. This is a classic bounce-back game to me for the Chiefs, and while it might make sense to take the points here for the Raiders, for a lot of, traditional, betting logistics, I'm actually going to fade that. I think the Chiefs will win massively. So 2 Chiefs written down here under the spreadsheet. Martin, on to the Bills and the Birds.
Jacob, we always talk about every single year is the Madden curse. What's the Madden curse? And the Madden curse is the cover of the Madden game, and there's always seems to be an injury or a player overhyped and didn't have a successful season afterwards, or just complete total catastrophe up to the certain degree. So the second option is in play, which is Josh Allen being the cover of the game is having probably his worst season since his rookie year. Stephon Diggs is tired of Buffalo. He probably wants out today. Von Miller is probably getting tired of this. He probably wants out. Buffalo is on fire. They cannot put the fire out, even with the 200 feet of snow they have up there. Even with Niagara Falls being across the street, that's not enough water to put out this fire. The Bills are in trouble. The Bills season is going down the drain. Their playoff hopes are dwindling as fast as it can possibly go. The Eagles will win this game because they prove that if they can beat the Chiefs, they can beat anybody. And the Chiefs are right now the only standstill team probably in front of the Eagles realistically that they had to challenge. I know Baltimore, I know Miami, that's later down the road. The Niners as well, but realistically, when you beat the Chiefs, you're beating one of the top teams in the NFL, and I think they'll do it again for another week against the Bills. The Bills are on fire; they're not turning it around. The Eagles are the better team. Give me Philly.
I think even with Buffalo on fire, Martin, we got to remember there's plenty of snow to cool them down. There's plenty of, previous seasons we've seen the Bills figure it out late in the year and at least, get into the playoffs and win a game or two. I think, I've made, some predictions I make off feel, some I make off stats, some I make off injuries. This is another prediction I'm going off of the feel. Martin, I think the Buffalo Bills have a lot bigger statement to make. They feel the pressure a lot more. I think the Eagles win last week was their biggest game of the regular season, and these are humans out there. They're not robots playing on the football field. They recognize that they likely locked up the 1 seed. They kind of locked up mental confidence going into the playoffs, and now they're going to cruise the rest of the regular season. I'm not going to say they're going to pick up a ton of losses, but I am going to say, once again, you can only go so long winning some of these close games in the NFL. Martin, a 5-point win against the Cowboys, a 7-point win against the struggling Commanders, a 4-point win against the Chiefs. Lots of close games as of recently, and can't remember that horrible loss to the New York Jets. That's still fresh in everybody's head. Martin, I'm going to roll with the Bills. They just have way too much to play for right now. They're on the verge of missing the postseason. I think if they miss the postseason, it'll be because of this game. So I'm rolling with Buffalo to get it done on the road in their biggest win of the season, and I'm sure once again the media is going to flip-flop on Buffalo again. The Ravens and Chargers are under the bright lights on Sunday night. Lamar, Herbert, who takes this one?
So, if you looked at some of the stats or you just looked at records, this is one of the closest win loss records Lamar Jackson has in his career versus some of the teams he has in his division. He's 6-4 against the Los Angeles Chargers, and some of those have been on the road, some of those have been at home. I think he has a 500 record in LA, and I think the rest of it is a winning record at home. So the Ravens are on the road, but the Ravens are one of the better offensive teams. But they're also coming into this game, Jacob, no Ronnie Stanley, their left tackle, no Odell Beckham Jr., and no Zay Flowers. They're all questionable going into tomorrow's game. So those are three big keys for the Ravens. But the Chargers have lost back-to-back games to the Lions and to the Southern Canada. I won't say who they really are. Those two losses were really gut-wrenching for me. The offense looked miserable. I just feel so much for Herbert. Staley will get fired at some point, but then again, the Spanos don't like spending money and paying 4 or 5 coaches to go on the shelf. So who knows what they'll do after the end of the season. Taking Baltimore on the road, they're the better team. Herbert looks done. I think the Chargers are done, period. It's just ugly, and I don't think the slide fall of the Charger season is over with just yet.
Yeah, give me Baltimore minus 3.5 on the road. Martin, the Chargers, I think if they were going to fire Brandon Staley midseason, it would have been already. There's certainly been a lot of discussion about that. I think the Chargers locker room is officially lost. Looking at the Ravens' schedule here, I know every game is urgent in the National Football League, but when I look ahead, after next week, Martin, the Ravens close the season with a doozy. At Jags, at 49ers, and then home against the Dolphins and the Steelers. Martin, we know we know the Ravens get banged up late in the year. Something always seems to happen to Lamar Jackson. At least one running back is going to be disintegrated, it feels like, who suits up for Baltimore per season. Their injury struggles concern me. Could this be the game where the tide turns for the Ravens? I don't know. But what I will tell you, Martin, is that Baltimore has been kind of that second fill to Kansas City for the last 3 years. And they know that Kansas City has been able to gobble up those home playoff games like clockwork from how they do in the regular season. This is where Baltimore needs to take advantage, Martino. They need to recognize the Chiefs are coming off a loss. They need to one-up themselves, get up a game against Kansas City with a win this week. This is massive, massive for Baltimore, even though it's just week 12. The Chargers, their locker room's cooked. That's all I really got to say. There's just no way that they're going to have the buy-in, the rally to get this one done against a team like Baltimore, who we've seen absolutely obliterate teams this year. That Lions game wasn't close, Martin. I know there's a ton of games I could reel off about the Ravens, but we are both rolling with Baltimore to get it done. Quoth the Raven, nevermore. Last game of the week, Martin. Your Bears. You've been waiting for this one. At the Vikings. Vegas says it's going to be a close one.
Yeah, Vegas always says it's close, and in the middle of this podcast, Jacob, because I'm only in Utah, and we always like to make fun of some Utah teams like Utah and BYU. Currently, at the moment, BYU having a game on the line to go to a bowl game. They're beating Oklahoma State, 21 ranked in the country, 21-6 in Bedlam, Oklahoma right now. Just under 2 minutes left to go in the second quarter. We'll see if BYU can win and go to a bowl game. That would be one heck of a surprise after their tough season. Back to the NFL, talking about another tough team and the Bears. The Bears are the Bears. Forgive me, Chicago. This will be the only time this season I do this, and I never will do it ever again. I promise you that. Give me Minnesota. The Vikings have Justin Jefferson coming back. As much as I like Justin Fields, the Bears have not done successfully in Minnesota in a couple seasons. Last time we were up there, the referees decided to rob us of a game. Still do not forgive that block in the back because it wasn't a block in the back, and we would have had a touchdown and cut it down to 3. Joshua Dobbs will find a way to feed Matheson, and we'll find a way to feed Justin Jefferson, and we'll find a way to feed TJ Hawkinson. The Bears aren't ready. They're not going to be ready. Give me Minnesota.
Folks, you need to put an APB out for Martin Kelly because whoever I am talking with in Discord right now is an imposter. Martin has picked the Bears in every single game this year. He's even picked them against the Chiefs. Martin, I respect you coming around, but this was not the game that I was expecting you to pick the Vikings. Now, it's only a 3-point spread in Minnesota, which is, very worrisome. I think a lot of people are looking at Josh Dobbs and saying, okay, he can only play like this for so long, right? Justin Fields is back in Chicago, but, there's not enough. Deontay Foreman, he's doubtful this week. That's going to be a blow. The Vikings still have playoff hopes. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Minnesota here. They have more to play for. It's the Bears on the road. This is going to be a close game, but man, I am still just shell-shocked right now. Martin, I hope you're listening to this once this gets recorded. I hope you can, find your way back home and, get back to work because an imposter has taken over for you, picking the Vikings over the Bears. What the heck?
It's just the Bears have shown me absolutely nothing. The Bears continue to show me absolutely nothing. I want them to trade Justin Fields right now. Go send him to a contender. Jacob, this is the only answer I have is when you decide to allow money to be the most important thing over production, over consistency, over loyalty. You do that to a city, you do that to a fan base that have bled and spread love and have cherished every single minute we ever could about that team, and you continue to shove 1985 in front of our faces and talk about how 2006 was just short of that stick, and how if we just didn't have Rex Grossman in that game, and maybe we had a defense, and maybe if Mike Brown would have played in the Super Bowl. Enough is enough. Enough of the Jay Cutler backpedaling and highlights from possibly him being the franchise quarterback. Enough is enough. They've wasted so much talent. They've wasted so much money. They beg Bears fans to pay $500 to go to a football game. They continue to talk about moving out to Arlington Heights. Go ahead, move out of the city of Chicago. Leave Soldier Field for all I care. The Bears have done nothing this season. They continue to rip my heart out and stomp it in front of my face. And I'm at the end of my rope. I have not 1 ounce of immense of sympathy for the Bears. Trade Justin Fields, trade DJ Moore, blow this up. The Bears are done.
Another name popular to the state of Utah, where Martin currently resides, Noah Sewell. He is out for the Bears with a knee this week against the Vikings. So yeah, Martin, it looks like the Chicago Bears have finally broken Martin's NFL hopes. Better days await in the draft, Martin. Better days. But that's week 12 in the National Football League. Part 2, you could say, since we already did the holiday slate is through, but every single team plays this week in the National Football League. There is no buys. There is no escaping what is sometimes the brutal forces of a physical game. Wishing, every player, every team the best of luck this week, but, a little bit more luck to the teams that we picked here in week 12. That's Martin Kelly. I'm Jacob Zimmerman. See ya.
Peace.